J.C. Newman Cigar Studios in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Smokin Nicole.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTabacco.com. I am joined once again by my beautiful fiancée, Smokin Nicole. And tonight we are welcoming on another peer of the Cigar Media. That's right. It's Mr. Brooks Whittington from Halfwheel.com. You may have read some of his cigar reviews online before. This is the man, the myth, the legend. Brooks, thank you for being with us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I know Charlie, you might have seen us advertise and promote that Charlie Minato of Half Whale was supposed to be with us tonight, but unfortunately, he could not do it tonight. He is fighting off a cough right now, and I know how that feels because yesterday I started getting sick again for like the second time in 3 weeks, and like I'm over here, I'm smoking, but I'm not happy about it, but I'm doing it because I'm a trooper, but so I get it. Charlie will actually join us in February, which would be cool. So we still get to have Charlie on and talk with him and hang out with him. But Brooks, we are so happy to have you here too. This is awesome. Are you smoking?
Happy
over
to
there?
be here.
Are you smoking tonight?
I am.
What are you smoking over there?
I have a Casa Fuente Corona Gorda.
Ooh, Casa Fuente. I love those. Those are great.
Yes, from the national release that they just did recently.
Yeah, those are awesome. I was really intrigued and excited to see them do that because, I mean, if you're a cigar smoker and you know about Casa Fuente, I mean, that's obviously the only place you normally can get them. But to see them actually go out, for people who don't get to actually travel to Las Vegas and go there, who are able to find it at a local brick and mortar, that's awesome. That they got experience to try them.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that they shipped that many of them, but they, if you saw them at the stores, you could certainly pick them up.
Oh yeah,
they had quite a few boxes, so we were lucky to get our hands on a box as well. Who sold them to me? But that's.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Should we say?
We could.
Can we say?
Why not?
I didn't think that it was very.
It's not private.
That's true.
He's there.
Nicole actually got them from one of our local shops, LJ Peretti, who also currently
Great store.
Is great store.
Yep.
And currently is playing host to Carlos Fuente III, as he performs a little internship there, and so she went in and bought Casa Fuentes from a Fuente.
From him himself.
So that was interesting. Well, what was more interesting too is, when we were all out in Vegas in July for PCA, I actually tried to buy a box of Casa Fuentes while I was there, and they're like, no, we're not doing any box sales right now because we're just so short. And I was like, oh, okay. When I was kind of disappointed, I was like, whatever, I got plenty of cigars. So it was funny to actually buy them a box of Casa Fuente at a local retailer than actually at Casa Fuente, where I could not get a box when I tried. I don't know. I just thought that was funny.
Did you ask for a Lancero while you were there?
No, actually, I didn't. I did not.
Next time you need to ask for a Lancero.
I'll take note of that because I do like Lanceros.
They probably won't give you one, but
I'll tell him Brooks told me to ask.
You have to try.
Yeah, that's not gonna get you anywhere, buddy.
Oh man, I do love a good Lancero though. But no, I mean those are great. I do love those. That's a really nice choice that you have. Nicole and I are both smoking Perdomo. Little toast to the Perdomo family as they have welcomed a newborn into the Perdomo family.
That's
Natalie
right.
has just given birth to sorry,
A healthy baby girl.
Yeah, my throat is just grabbing me right here.
Oh no. It already
I'm good. I made it through. To a healthy baby girl. So Nick Perdomo is now a grandfather. So toast to him. We're smoking Perdomo. You have the Habano Connecticut Shade Epicure. And I have the 10th anniversary Sungrown. I love Perdomo Sungrown. It's some of my favorite stuff. And according to our friends at twoguyscigars.com, you can find these cigars. Sorry. There it is. Nope. See, this is what happens when you send too many. The 10th anniversary Sungrown Epicure. You can pick that up for $9.19 for a single. A box will set you back $190, $199. And on the Habano Connecticut Shade, A single will set you back $9.19, and the box price was
$189.99.
$189.99, and that can be found at the number 2 guyscigars.com. Well, Brooks, thank you for being here. We're really excited to have you on here. So I know that before Half Wheel, you also had your own pretty successful cigar blog online. And if I remember correctly,
I wouldn't call it successful.
Okay.
What would you call it?
What would you call it?
You have to remember that back then, you're talking 2009 or so. Back then, there was very few actual cigar blogs out there. And most of them that were out there were like mine. They were basically just people who were throwing up stuff to, because they enjoyed it and that kind of thing. And so when I started my blog in 2009, called Smokin Stogie, as I recall, then the reason that I started it was I would go onto the forums and all of that good stuff, as a lot of people were back when forums were a thing. And, I was a professional photographer for my second career at the time, and I was looking for something just to do as a lark. And I noticed that a lot of the people who were taking photographs of these cigars were not very good at it, really. No offense to them, of course. But I figured I could do better because I was a professional after all. I've been doing shooting for 20 years, and I figured I could do better. So I started taking some nice macro shots of smoking and that kind of thing, and people seemed to like it. So I said, all right, well, I'll just throw some pictures up on a website, and built a website in some program that I forget the name of at the moment, and it seemed to take off a little bit, and people seemed to like it, and they were clicking on it and that kind of thing. So I started getting some advertising, and I wasn't paid in cash. I didn't need cash at the time, so I just I was asking them to send me cigars or whatever. It was a lark more than anything, and it wasn't something that I ever expected to really go anywhere, and that one specifically did not.
Yeah, but that was pretty much kind of how you got into the media, so to speak, with cigar. It got you kind of in the door before
Sure.
going on to co-found Half Wheel with Charlie and a few others, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, I thought you were I thought he was going to say that. I just paused. So that basically just kind of getting into a little bit more of your backstory.
Sure.
That was kind of like where you kind of started with getting online with cigars, and then that eventually led you into starting Half Wheel.
Right.
So to speak.
And how did that come about?
Yeah, how exactly did that come about when you kind of decided, all right?
That's a long and funny story. Well, let's say mildly amusing. I don't want to oversell it. So essentially what's happened is that I got an email or a call, I forget. And again, I'm old, so you'll have to forgive me with specific details. But I got an email or a call one day from a kid who at the time was 19 or 20 named Charlie. And he had told me that he had family in Dallas and he had seen my blog or we had talked over, one of the forums or whatever, and he wanted to meet, or I called him and wanted to meet, and again, don't remember, but we decided to meet, so we went up to Elite, as I recall, the old Elite store, which is one of our stores here in Dallas, the great Elite Cigar Cafe in Addison, and we met up, and we had a good time, and everything was cool, and so he was at Wake Forest. He was still in school at Wake Forest at the time. And he told me that he had a website that was basically, dealing with news and cigar news, which wasn't something that a lot of people had. In fact, I was a little surprised, as I recall, from there wasn't that many cigar news websites out there other than CA at the time. And he was running down sources and that kind of thing. And so whenever he come back for vacation or for school breaks or whatever, we would get together and we'd had a time, and everything was working out that way. And eventually we got to the point where we're like, okay, well, we're helping each other out. My blog had started a focus of reviewing and photographing like really rare and really expensive and really hard to find cigars, like cigars that people would hoard and not ever smoke. And the purpose was to actually smoke those and take photographs of them and that kind of thing. And he was dealing more and more with news. He had some reviews, but not all that many. And he was doing more with news. And so we said, why don't we help each other out at this point? And if I see anything news-wise, that I'll, go your way. And if you see anything, rare cigar-wise that I could pick up, then, email me or call me or whatever, and we'll go from there. So that happened back and forth for a year or so. And then, as I recall, he was going to the tobacco show, IPCPR at the time, and said, hey, why don't you come to IPCPR? I'll show you around a little bit and introduce you to people, because I wasn't as aggressive meeting people as he was. And he took me around that year, and I forget what year it was. Took me around that year and showed me, introduced me to some people and that kind of thing, and that was a fun time. And then the next year, we did the same thing and walked around and realized at that point, or after that, that we were doing the same work basically. We're going around to the booths and doing the same work, taking the same pictures and that kind of thing. So we sat down, and as I recall, I offered him a job on my blog, which he promptly turned down after laughing at me, because I didn't, I wasn't making any money. So he said, listen, I think the best thing to do is to actually start a new blog, and we can combine the two parts of our blogs that we have. I've got the news, and you've got the reviews and the photography. He was doing reviews as well, but it was more of a news focus, I believe, at the time. And so he said, why don't we combine the two, and we can make a new site? And I was like, yeah, great, that sounds awesome. I was still doing my we were international documentary wedding photographers, and so the wife and I were, and so we were still doing wedding photography at the time. And so I said, yes, great, sounds awesome, go to it, and let's do what we can. So he built the site from the ground up, basically, and did a lot of the work getting the site off of the ground. And we didn't tell anybody about it, and both of our sites had continued to become more popular over that 6 months. And so it was a little bit of a shock, I think, when Charlie pulled the plug and basically just had both of our sites go to, his was called the cigarfeed.com, and it had both of the sites go to Half Wheel on January 1st, 2012. So when people went on to Smoking Stogie or Cigar Feed, that morning they were redirected to a brand new site that had all of the information from both of our. He had ported everything over, all of the reviews, all of the news. I can't even imagine how much time it actually took, but he had ported everything over, and it went live, and nobody had any idea what was going on, and that was the start of Half Wheel. Sorry, that seems long.
No, that's great. No, that's why we're here. We're here to tell stories and talk, and it's all good. Great story. So January 1st, 2012. So you guys are coming up on 10 years in a matter of weeks. I didn't even realize. That's awesome.
Nor did I, ironically.
I just put down that's in a couple weeks. No, that's awesome. So congratulations to all of you really at Half Wheel. That's that's quite an accomplishment. And you've been around longer than I have, and you've obviously probably seen people come and go for
Sure.
many different reasons, and whatever those reasons are, that doesn't really matter. But to the point is to be still here and to be growing and building after that many years is quite an accomplishment. The fact that it was able to really grow and prosper. So really, congratulations to you guys.
Thank you. It's gone way beyond anything I expected. And again, I think Charlie, I think he, had ideas about where it would go and how big it would become eventually. I did not. I was really more of I thought the wedding business, our other business, was gonna sustain me, and it didn't work out. We decided that my wife would get a job, and a real job, after I had my son. So it all worked out in that regard. But I certainly had no idea that it would reach to the levels that it has. Both Charlie and I are full time, and have been for years, and it's just an amazing situation where, we essentially get paid to, write about cigars and smoke cigars, and that's basically our job. We come in and do every single day, and it's not something that we take for granted, I don't think, but I certainly didn't expect it to happen either.
It's kind of like every cigar geek's dream. You just
I know, you're living the dream.
You're living the dream.
Yes.
It's full time.
Although you have to be you have to be careful about that, though. Because every cigar geek's dream is to make a living smoking cigars, but when you're actually making a living smoking cigars, things become a little bit different. Then, I don't. It's a very different situation when you're talking about actually having a deadline. I have a deadline of this cigar that has to be smoked by this date, and it's a very different situation between that and just smoking on your back porch because you feel like it.
Right.
Before we had the office, before we had the smoking lounge, which you see behind me here, before we had the smoking lounge, we were smoking in the rain, in the stores, random stores that we would be able to go to or whatever it was. We had to get the reviews out at a certain time. And it's a different situation then. It's not something that you, sometimes you don't enjoy it as much as you would if you weren't actually, doing this for a job as opposed to just because you want to kind of thing.
Right.
Oh, we completely understand that. We did dabble in cigar reviews once upon a time, and we decided no, because it takes the fun out of it.
It's one thing that I
Sure,
learned. No, go ahead, Brooks.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I probably wasn't going to say anything important anyway. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say. I mean, when I started smoking tobacco, obviously cigar reviews was something that obviously I thought about, and I started to try to practice and get into, but I learned just very quickly just how involved just the reviewing process is. And I don't have anything against reviews, and if I did do this full time, I probably would do reviews. And I learned that from Cigar Coop as well. I listened to him and just what he does and goes through just to get his reviews out. I'm like, yeah, I don't have that much time to do all that many cigars. I mean, I'm lucky I have the time that I have with my regular job to do what I have already. So
yeah, be careful though, because your regular job you could decide that that's not the way to go either. And that's that's what happened with Half Wheel, is that at the end of the day I was like, there's no reason there's no reason to continue doing what I was doing when this is doing so well. And even then I didn't know how big it was going to become, but it was doing very well. And we thought, okay, we'll just do it. And I never knew, what would come of it from there. But, you just, you had to take a leap of faith at some point and say, okay, we think this is going to work. Let's see what happens, kind of thing. And, with Charlie behind the site, I mean, he's very driven and he's very aware of what he's trying to accomplish with the site. And he has a lot more vision, I think, when it comes to the future and things of that nature than I do. And it comes down to personalities, I think, more than anything. I'm really more of a let it go kind of guy, whatever happens. And he's not by any means. And so a lot of what you see on the site is driven a lot by him and Patrick when it comes to, decisions about, how it looks and how we do things and that kind of thing.
Like the overall presentation of the site and
Sure.
all of that, right? Which you guys have done a great job with. I mean, I would say at this point, when it comes to online cigar media, you guys are certainly right at the top there, along with a few others too. Like Dojo and Coop and those guys. I mean, they've built their own followings and they've been pretty successful. But Half Wheel has really kind of become
The standard
of online cigar media, which is interesting because a lot of times on shows, and I'm sure within your circle it gets talked about too, is there's still this this presence of the print media. Cigar Aficionado, obviously, I would say would be the biggest of print media. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's like the old way, but it kind of is. As we progress through time here, and we we're obviously much more digital now than if any, when Cigar Aficionado started and they were just print. But watching you guys kind of grow and others grow, and online media really taking more of a presence, and talking to people who came before me, such as yourself and so many others who were there kind of when the bloggers and stuff it was looked down upon by some.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about without trying to give too much away.
Are we not allowed to talk about that?
You know what? We can. And you know what? And as someone who was there, feel free. The no holds here. You can say whatever you want.
I tend to get myself in trouble in these situations because I'm not sure what I'm supposed to talk about and what I'm not.
With me, I don't care what you say.
No, Charlie will care, I imagine.
Whatever Charlie doesn't want you to say, though, that's...
Look, there were organizations that didn't want us there as media, and there were organizations that didn't want us involved in terms of covering certain things and that kind of thing. They didn't think that that we were... I don't know why. I mean, but my assumption was that they didn't think that we were a valid source of media at the time. And I can possibly understand a little bit of that. I mean,
sure.
They're used to, a lot of the cigar industry is, very old school in many different ways. And so it takes time for certain things to make an impact like they should. And I think that the cigar media is one of those things. And I think we really strive to, be professional in terms of everything that we're doing and be consistent in how we present things. And I think that eventually people are won over by that fact. There are probably people who don't like us and who don't like what we do necessarily, but I think that the vast majority of people respect what we've done and what we do continue to do. We don't screw around with, the process or anything of that nature. It's a very consistent, and to make it as fair as possible for everybody concerned. And I think that eventually most of the people who either didn't know what was happening or didn't, were waiting it out, were won over by the idea that, we really were doing this as a job, as an actual career, and we're not here to screw it up. We're not just, a whole bunch of guys asking for, free cigars or whatever it was. I mean, at this point, we're buying every cigar that we review and have, that was a choice that we made specifically because we didn't want it to be to the point where people go, oh, well, you're just getting free cigars from Davidoff or whoever it was. Well, people send us cigars, sure. And we don't use those for reviews. We buy every cigar at this point that we review on the site.
Yeah, I think that's a really respectable move, and I've read tons of your reviews and Charlie's reviews, and I like how that's in there. Cigars for the review were purchased by halfwheel.com.
Right.
Really, really great, and I like the point too, and the reason behind it. It makes a lot of sense too. It kind of also helps with kind of trim away like any bias that might be there. Well, they got those for free, so they're going to give it a great rating because Davidoff sent them 4 boxes of, whatever.
Sure, and to be clear, I want to be clear that that doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong to take cigars and review those that are given to you. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just a choice that we made as a business that we wanted to take as many aspects out of the review that people could point to and say this is something that colored your opinion, kind of thing. And so for us, that was the obvious choice, was to be able to do that. And,
absolutely.
And we have the capability of doing that with the money stream that we have.
Right.
Absolutely, but that's why the standard of your reviews are it's so high. I mean, people can look at that and just say you've taken all of these external factors out, so you're not biased, because there are people I feel like who are reviewing who are. You can tell they only smoke one. It just like that in itself is kind of an issue that I have, because talking about consistency of smoking cigars and how they smoke and whatnot, it's all over the board, but the people that do the best are the ones that take all of these extra measures, such as yourself.
Sure, and that's one of the reasons that we decided to, early on, we decided to smoke, more than one. And every review that we have on the site, we've smoked 3 cigars of every cigar that we put a review up for, except for, there are a few of them early on and to this day for the Holy Grail stuff, the week in January, which is coming up, I guess, where we smoke really rare, really, really expensive cigars. Sometimes those we can't procure more than 1 or 2. Other than that, 3 cigars for every review. And if we don't get 3 cigars, then we don't review that cigar. And it's a very, it's one of those things. Going on the site that except for those specific times which aren't, I mean, they're reviews, but they're reviews of, stuff from the 70s or whatever it is, and they're not something that, that are the same as have the same weight, I think, as a newer, cigar that's being released.
Right.
But going on the site that if it's a newer cigar that it's going to have we smoke 3 cigars, and I do it, but I'm not sure everybody else does. But I take a picture of every cigar that I smoke, and it's helped me. Somebody's come on at one of the comments and comment section and said, hey, this, and I was able to point to the cigars and say, well, here's the picture of the first one and the second one and the third one that I smoked. Here's the dates. Here's the timestamp. You can see everything. We don't screw around when it comes to things like this. So it's something that we truly feel is a big part of why we're successful and how we've gained the respect that we have in the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I didn't even I didn't realize that's good preparation on your part, I would say. Taking all the notes you have, all the pictures of every cigar, documenting. That's the word I really wanted to use. Documenting just everything you have. When you do your reviews. Now, let me ask you this question. So when you do a review, is there any kind of ritual or anything specific that you do either while you're reviewing or to prepare to do a cigar for a review? I mean, I would assume for you, when you know you're going to be reviewing the cigar, that you sit down to cut it, light it, smoke it, and you're in that element of, okay, I'm doing this for a review. It's going to be much different than when you're like, hey, let me just fire this up while I'm at my desk, just kind of working on the computer and just going to kind of smoke aimlessly just to have a cigar. But is there any kind of ritual or anything you do to really get prepared for a review, or is it just kind of all come naturally?
Well, I mean, at this point, it's a fairly, it's a process that we've been through so many times at this point that it's not something that I really think about. And everybody's going to be different. Everybody on the site has very different ideas and specific rituals, if you will, that they do, I'm sure. I try to smoke cigars at the same time every day. It doesn't always work out, but I try to. Usually I'm smoking in the morning. That's more so now that we have the lounge, we come to office every day, so we have the lounge, and I'm smoking usually in the morning before 12, before noon. You don't drink anything except water with it. I used to not drink. I used to drink other things, and now I'm not. And with eating, you try to eat, but don't eat right before and eat, cigar, and that kind of thing. So that the palate is not influenced in any way. A lot of times I'm running. I'm not really one to get reviews on on time. We're supposed to have the reviews up the night before, and most times I'm not really on time. But so a lot of times with reviews, I'm not really thinking about which one I'm reviewing next, and I just basically look at it, say, oh hey, look, I've got whatever, and I pick it up and take it in here and start smoking. So I'm certainly not doing research ahead of time or anything of that nature. There's many times when I have no idea what the cigar is or who makes it or anything about it, in fact. And part of that is because I don't do a lot of the news on the site. Charlie and Patrick are basically doing the vast majority of the news on the site. And so they probably have an understanding of who makes this and that kind of thing, because they've probably written stories about it or talked to somebody about it. But for me, at least, it's at this point, it's basically I just pick it up and go, okay, this looks cool. Let's see what it is and go from there.
Interesting. No, it's some good points that you made. I do want to take a break really quick because we forgot we have to hit our news segment really quick. Our news segment is brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. If you head over to McAuliffeCigars.com today, you can sign up to be an official ambassador, get your ambassador coin, ambassador number, and while you're at it, grab a tasting passport and smoke through the McAuliffe catalog. This week, our news is going to be the shipment of the PCA exclusive Magic Toast Box Press Grand Toro from Alec Bradley. The three of us all saw this cigar earlier this year at the PCA trade show. It is now being shipped out to retailers across the country. I had this cigar. I thought it was good. The other one that I really enjoyed was the new version of the Gatekeeper. I thought that cigar was really well. I think Alec Bradley has been doing some some good stuff over there. Been really enjoying their stuff lately. Been smoking a little bit more of it than I have previously. Just kind of revisiting it as a whole. It's just, and it's one of those brands that, you know, by no intentional purpose, I just kind of not really, I don't want to say steered away from, just kind of forgot about and got away from, and, you know, got wrapped up in other brands and other cigars and stuff like that. And it was one of those, I was just like, oh, you know, Alec Bradley, and I kind of been revisiting it lately. And so far, I've been really enjoying a lot of stuff that I
also just feel personally, I feel like some of the shops near us don't have quite a huge selection
They
of
don't,
Alec
actually.
Bradley.
You know, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Just the shops that we frequent, so that happens.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point too. I haven't really seen it a lot around here in the New Hampshire, Greater Boston area of kind of where we buy our cigars and travel around to. So that definitely has an impact on it too. Yeah, stuff like that happens and you don't even realize it, and that's why it's great to, again, check with your local brick and mortar retailer. But if, you know, if they don't have it, obviously there's retailers online you can go to. But yeah, so that is out there. So I would highly recommend that. Go check that out. Ask your local brick and mortar retailer. But if not, you can head over to a number of online retailers such as Corona, Smokin, I think carries that. I don't think Two Guys Cigars. No, they do. I think Two Guys Cigars carries Alec Bradley online. Online, I think they do. I don't think they do in store, but I think online they do.
All right.
So that's going to be our news of the week. So Brooks, kind of getting back to the conversation at hand with Half Whale and kind of everything. So we've kind of picked your brain a little bit on reviews. Having said that, you know, obviously you get to smoke a lot of stuff, see a lot of new stuff. Talking 2021, it's Cigar of the Year season. We've already started to kind of roll out our top 10.
I saw that.
Our number 10 cigar we gave to the HVC Hotcake Grand Canyon. I thought that was a fantastic cigar. I really enjoyed that. Even when the line first launched, it was been one of my favorites from HVC. That and the Black Friday releases every year, they seem to get a little bit better every year. They continue to blow me away. What have you seen personally this year in terms of, you know, new stuff that's coming out that may be eligible without really giving away? I know Half Whale has their list too, but what did you see this year that you really liked, and what did you see this year that you were really disappointed by that maybe you thought was going to be better than it turned out to be?
Oh my. You're gonna get me in trouble now.
I gotta ask the tough questions sometimes, but I try to steer you in the right direction if I can.
So you know, at Half Whale, we're very open about how we do things for the most part. You know, where there's no real big secrets on the top 25 in terms of what's being in contention. Every year it's the same. Anything that scores a 91 or above is in contention for the top 25 as long as it's a new release. And so you can go on the site and you can check out every 91 and you can see exactly what's in contention. So basically for the top 25, for our top 25, basically what happens is that the original smoker smokes the cigar. They smoke three samples of it. And then if it gets a 91 or above, then it automatically triggers a situation where we send the same cigars to the three other reviewers, myself, so the four reviewers, myself, Patrick, Charlie, and Brian, who used to work for the site and is only, he has a real job now, and he helps us out with Top 25 still and with the show, PCA show. And he's extremely important in both endeavors. And thank you, Brian, for doing that for us. So once that happens, all of the reviewers smoke the same cigar, one of each cigar, and then they send their scores in, and then everything's tabulated, and Charlie does magic to it or whatever, and goes through a whole bunch of different algorithms, and it comes out with a score, the final score. And he details everything on every year about how he does things. So I would suggest you go and look at that if you're interested in such things. For me specifically, I was really impressed with the Aladino Cameroon Elegante, the Lancero. Aladino, I had smoked some stuff before, and it was good, but not, it didn't blow me away. But it was an amazing cigar when I first smoked it. It's one of the few cigars that I've smoked in the last 6 months that made me, sit up and go, wow, this is really, really good. So that's definitely one of them that I enjoyed. The Tatuaje T110 Capa Especial with the Sumatra wrapper.
Oh, I loved that.
Was an excellent cigar. And I've always loved Pete's Sumatra wrappers on just about everything, really.
Mm-hmm.
The old stuff I thought was, the old stuff was magical, but that I think the wrapper and that blend just really, really, really sang together. And so that's definitely another one that I enjoyed immensely.
Yeah.
You want more? Or is that?
Oh yeah, no, whatever you wanted to share, that's fine. I'm not gonna make you list off 100 of them. I agree though on the Tatuaje. I really loved that cigar. I thought it was great. I remember smoking and being like, wow. And you gave that a 91, I believe.
I did not. That was not my review.
Oh,
No.
Was that Charlie? I remember seeing it online.
Gotta be honest with you, I don't remember.
I think it was Charlie then, because I remember seeing it on Halfway. I think you guys gave it 91, if I remember correctly. And I just remember being like, wow, yeah, like this is definitely a very awesome cigar. The Aladino, the Cameroon, I'll be honest with you, out of all of the Aladinos, it's probably my least favorite. Not that it's a bad cigar. I think I was blown away with the Corojo Reserva stuff. That whole line, especially like the number 4, that's probably like my favorite one. It's probably my favorite Aladino cigar, period. The Cameroon stuff was good. It wasn't, I don't know. I guess I'd already kind of made up my own little version of what I loved about Aladino. And then they came along, and it wasn't bad. They're definitely good cigars, and they're great quality, but
and that's the beauty of it, I mean, is that everybody doesn't have to agree by any
absolutely
means.
Yeah, everyone's different. It's all open to interpretation.
That's the cool thing about the top 25, especially when you've got 4 people, like we do. If it makes it in the top 10, if it makes it in the top 5, it's probably, I mean, I would assume anyway, it's going to be a good cigar, because all of us have to like it quite a bit for it to reach that far or that high, and all of us don't like the same things, and so it has to hit a lot of different aspects in order to make it that high. And I think that's again one of the strengths that we have is that we have all of these reviewers that do have different. We're coming from different places, and if a cigar makes it in that top 25 at the top, then it's going to be something I think that probably appeals to a larger audience, just based on the fact that it has to please all of us in some way or another.
Absolutely. Now, tell me, give me a couple, if you can, of maybe cigars that, not necessarily that you didn't like or like you hated. It doesn't have to be. It can be. But maybe something that going into it you had some high hopes for, but it really let you down.
Well, and again, you can read the reviews and tell me to see things we didn't necessarily like. I will tell you that I have smoked the T110 Reserva, the Connecticut Broadleaf.
Yes.
And I was not as impressed with that one as I wanted to be, and I knew that they were going to be, I knew that it wasn't going to be my favorite, probably because I probably will prefer the Sumatra, although I didn't know until I smoked it, obviously. But I was hoping for a little bit. I was hoping for a little bit more than it gave me, and. It didn't, and not all of Pete's stuff I love. I certainly like a whole bunch of his stuff, but that one to me is not a bad cigar by any means, but not even close to a bad cigar. But it was certainly something that, if given the choice, I would take the regular T110, the re-release, or the Sumatra any day over the week over that one.
Interesting choice. I actually haven't smoked the broadleaf yet. I've only smoked the Sumatra and the Habano, I believe.
Have you smoked the original?
I did not get to smoke the original, no.
It was a strong cigar.
I think the review on Halfway, I think that was your review, if I remember correctly, too.
Yes, I was back at the Smoking Stogie days.
I remember reading that review, and just being like, wow, just even the way it was written, I was like, wow, this thing sounds intense for a cigar.
It was a massive strong cigar, and it was something. I wish we probably got ones here somewhere. I should probably do a redux on it at some point. Other than in the collection, obviously, which we can't smoke. But yeah, I would love to smoke. I should go back and smoke a lot of those, original cigars that he released, just to see if any of them held up. Yeah, I'm smoking them. I've got a review of another one of his coming up, the Frank, the Redux.
Oh yes.
I haven't smoked it yet, but that original Frank that he released was at the time it was one of the greatest cigars I'd ever smoked. It was wonderful when it was first released, and that and the Black Label Corona Gorda as well in the jars. I smoked the hell out of those, and they were great cigars for sure. So looking forward to that.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because it's almost time for our top 3 segment.
Yes.
Our top 3 segment brought to you by Room 101 Cigars. Room 101 is more than just a brand, a lifestyle brand. It's a cigar brand, a gin brand, wherever your travels may take you. I improv that one every week just because that's how Matt would read it. Just made it up on the spot every time. Our top 3 this week is going to be for you, Brooks. It is your top 3 favorite cigars that you reviewed out of all time. Out of all the reviews you've given, what were the 3 cigars?
Or top 3 standouts.
Top 3 standouts.
Yeah.
That you would
like I can remember all the cigars.
I know it's a tough one, but I try to keep tough questions here. It keeps people alive.
Doesn't have to be accurate, but just what ones stand out.
I'll just make something up. It's fine.
Okay.
It's not like people can go on and prove me wrong, right? One of the best cigars I've ever smoked was the I told you the Corona Gorda, the Black Label Corona Gorda.
Yes.
Was wonderful.
Yep.
Pete's Black Label Corona Gorda was amazing when it was first released. I don't personally think that they have aged very well, and I don't think the Black Label ages very well in most sizes to begin with. I think it's supposed to be a rough cigar. It's supposed to be more of a rustic, cigar, and I think that captures the profile is captured when it's more fresh. More fresh. That doesn't sound like English. It does. You want to smoke those a little bit fresher than aging them, in my opinion. Now, there are other Vitolas that's not the case. I smoked not recently, probably 2 years ago, but I smoked one of the original Robustos that came in a long time ago. When the blend was first released, he was giving out 3 packs of Robustos in the Black Label. It's the only way you could get a Robusto at that time, I believe. And they gave them away with box purchase or something like that. And we'd kept a couple of those packs in there, and I smoked one 2 years ago, and it was phenomenal. So not every Vitola is like that, apparently, but the Corona Gordas that I've smoked, the original ones, were just not even close to what they were before. Of course, they're going to be different being that old, but you really want to, in my opinion, you really want to smoke a lot. Most of those Vitolas, I would think, that I've tried anyway, are really better fresh than aged. Let me think. Just a second.
No worries.
Dead air here.
It happens from time to time. And there's nothing you can do about it sometimes. When you're doing a podcast, you're doing a show, that's like what's like on the list of like the don'ts, or like the don't ever do, is dead air. But it's like sometimes it happens,
Well, the problem is I'm old, and so I don't remember things as well.
How old are you? You keep throwing that around, but you don't look that old.
I'm like 86.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I've had a lot of work done.
You look great.
I've had a lot of work done.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you do. You look great.
People ask me, how come you don't look as old as you are? I'm 46, as I recall. And I think when I tell them, well, I can tell you how to look young, but you're not going to like it. And they say, okay, well, give it to me. And I said, okay, here's what you do. The only things you got to do is you got to lose all your hair, first of all, because, gray hair, balding, that kind of thing. That's what people, associate with old. So if you're bald, most popular people are not gonna,
That's a good point.
they're not gonna notice that you're as old as you are.
That's a good point.
No gray hair, except for the obviously the ones that I have here. And also, you got to get really, really fat because that really pushes out all of the wrinkles. And I have very few wrinkles at all because of the weight. So I look quite a bit younger, fatter but younger.
Once your facial hair kind of goes a little bit more white, you could almost maybe pull off that Steve Saka look.
That's a funny story. Mildly amusing, perhaps. When I went to Cuba, let's see, maybe 4 years ago, I covered the Habanos Festival. Have for 5 years.
Yep.
Last 5 years, except for last year, obviously. Last year? This year? Last year. Whenever the year was that they didn't have it. I was asked 4 times at least, was I Steve Saka? People come up to me and say, "Are you Steve Saka?" No, I'm not Steve Saka. I'm not anything close to Steve Saka. But apparently I look like him. Apparently all of us, bald guys look alike. So people get us confused quite a bit.
Hey, it happens. I could see it. At least on video through the small box, the graininess from the computer. I could see it if you look real good. Is that Saka? I could see it.
I think he's got some weight on me. I think he's he's lost some weight and he looks great. But I think he's still a little more than I am.
Who's taller though? That's the.
Is he?
Is he? No. Who is taller? Are you taller than he is?
I have no clue.
Yeah.
No clue.
I want to.
I insist that I'm 6 foot. The wife tells me I'm 5'10", but I insist that I'm 6 foot. So, probably somewhere in between.
Yeah, definitely close. Definitely close. Oh, actually, sorry, we do have a question.
Yes.
From Mark Vansled Wright. Mark, thanks for being here with us. What was the catalyst for launching the Consensus?
Well, the Consensus is Charlie's baby. I literally have nothing to do with the Consensus other than taking the photographs and fixing the photographs for the site. In terms of the cigars themselves. And I don't want to speak for him, but he details it on the site, I think, every year as well. I think the idea was that he had seen somebody do something like that before. I believe it was Brian over at one of the other sites. I forget the name of their site now. But he had done something like that, kind of a small version, and Charlie loved the idea, I believe, and said, "Hey, I'm going to do something only better, more, maybe not better, more intensive, perhaps." And so he started the idea behind the Consensus was to bring in all of the different medias and reviews to form a consensus, if you will, about the cigars that were perhaps not the best, but perhaps the most popular to the reviewers specifically, and the sites and the magazines and all of that. And so that was his idea, and I believe it's grown quite a bit from the original, iteration that he thought up. It takes just a massive amount of time every year that he has to deal with, and it's not something that is a small project at all. But we have to track down every year. We have to track down, some random cigar that we didn't review, so we have to find it for sale somewhere. And there have been times through the years that I've had to, because he's doing the scores up until the last minute, and so I've had to go, travel to some little cigar store here in Dallas, 2 hours away to find this cigar that we'd never reviewed, so we didn't have it, and to be able to get a photograph of it. So that's always fun.
Yeah, that's interesting. The we talk a little bit more about the future and kind of the evolution and media, with all that, kind of lump it all together. You touched on it a little bit before, and I know Charlie probably could speak on it a little bit different. Maybe a little more, as you kind of alluded to earlier, when it comes to like the overall vision and stuff like that. But in your opinion, as especially with last year and the way that the industry kind of adapted a little bit more, I think you said it perfectly earlier when you said, the cigar industry was very old school. I think that's a easy but great and accurate statement to make the industry as a whole. But especially when it comes to media, and not just like the way that people like us or you guys at Half Wheel do stuff, but even like just the manufacturers and the retailers, the way they conduct their business is very old school as a whole. Last year kind of forced everyone to think outside the box and get a little bit more updated, be a little bit more in tune with technology and using online, media and social media and ways to connect with each other to kind of, get business done. I think it's, we talk about it all the time. It's one of those things that I think it left an impression on the industry, and it's not going to go away now that, people have gone through it and learned and adapted with it. But taking that into consideration with the... I
think that was ours. There we go.
Sorry. Taking into consideration, the way it was before and now kind of the way everything's been shaken up. What do you see for Half Wheel going into the future? How have you guys, adapted, made some changes to kind of the last 24 months in the industry and how that set you guys up for the future?
Well, the thing is, what we're doing right now seems to be working very, very well. And we want to always be looking forward. We don't ever want to just, okay, this is the end and we're done and we're not going to change anything, obviously. But, we've always put an emphasis on, news and reviews and getting them up as many times and as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think that is basically why people come, one of the main reasons why people come to the site is because they know that if something is happening, I mean, Charlie and Patrick, they're the best, I've ever seen at their jobs. And I can say that. I mean, I was a journalist before. I was a photojournalist, mind you. But I worked for newspapers and I shot for some of the bigger newspapers here in Dallas for years. And this was many, many years ago, mind you. But, the tenacity that both Charlie and Patrick have it's a sight to behold. And, when people say, how is it that you're so successful and how is it that you do what you do and that people, go to the site and everything, the only reason, not the only reason, but a main reason is because whenever you hear about something happening in the cigar industry, it's going to be on Half Wheel, and it's going to be on Half Wheel very, very quickly. And we made a decision, we made a decision early on, and it wasn't my decision. I believe that was Charlie and Patrick to make this an industry blog where the people in the industry read it, as well as obviously people who are not in the industry. But we wanted it to make it so that it was something that people in the industry could read and hear about all of the things that are happening in the industry itself. And so it helps because now the people at the stores are recommending it to their people coming in, and all of these things that snowball from there. In terms of what we've done, we're putting more emphasis on videos. We're certainly not doing YouTube and trying to monetize that, but in terms of video reviews for things like cutters and accessories and things of that nature, we're doing a lot more work with that kind of thing than we did previously, where we basically just do a 2-minute video and this is good and this is good and this is good. It's more of a production now where we have multiple angles and lighting and things of this nature, and so for us specifically in terms of the video aspect, that's something that we really wanted to take to the next level. Same thing with the PCA show. We are the only blog, the only website that covers the PCA show the way that we do. We're covering it live. We have a post going up every hour pretty much for the entire show, and then for a week afterwards we cover just about every single booth that is on that floor if it has a cigar manufacturer, cigar company. But we miss some sometimes. We don't mean to, but it happens. But for the most part, you're going to see it. You're going to have a post on just about everybody that goes to that show. And there's a reason for that. We specifically meant it to be that way. But a couple of years ago, we added video to video interviews to the actual posts, and it was something that it really, it's a pain in the butt to do. I got to be honest with you. You got to carry around all the equipment. You got to carry around the microphone and all that other good stuff. And but it certainly has made it more approachable for the the end user to actually read and see. They can see the video, they can see the person talking about it, and that kind of thing, and it's a good thing to have. We've just upgraded our studio for the photography, for the stand-up shots, and for the box shots, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
We put a lot of money into building basically a massive studio where we have these, all of these options that we didn't have before. And again, it's something that we really want to make it a more professional product. It was already professional, but there's always things you can do better. And so for us, that was the main thing that we really wanted to concentrate on.
Mm. We have another question that just came in. Sorry, I was reading that.
That's quite all right. I honestly can't see you anyway. For some reason, my screen has gone blank. So.
Oh, really?
Don't make faces at me or anything. I won't see it.
Well, it's funny. So since you didn't see, as you were talking about carrying around the equipment and whatnot to do video, I pointed at Nicole, and then she pointed at herself because she is my camera person when we go to the trade show.
I'm the mule.
So she totally understands what point you're making right there.
Yes.
Setting up camera, setting up microphones, and all of that.
Right. Right. And we used to do in pairs as well. We got 4 people covering the show. In terms of the show floor, and then we have a photo editor who edits all the photographs that come in off-site, and then we've started bringing somebody to basically run the entire thing, get the post up and thing of that nature, so that Charlie or anybody else doesn't have to deal with it. And so for us, having 4 people, we used to go in pairs to different places, and decided that was a waste of time because you don't really need to have 2 people there. And so we started, splitting it up, and that was really the only way that we could do it so that we could actually cover as many as we do. I'm sorry, I probably rambling. My apologies.
No.
You were saying about a question?
No. That's quite all right. I totally. So last year, this year, the PCA was really our first go through with it, right? So
right.
I have to say, you guys do make it look easy, because just the 2 of us trying to get through the show. I mean, we only made it to like a third of the booths. And we were cranking and busy all 4 days. So the fact that you guys, you do what you do, it's not easy. I'll speak for you guys too. It's not easy. They make it look easy, but it's not. And Nicole certainly knows it's not easy either.
No, it's not easy at all. And it's exhausting. We're spending probably 12 hours a day, if not more, putting up posts and because we're doing it live. So we're having to cover everything basically live. Until the end of the show, and then we basically, put the stuff that we didn't get up before until we're done with all of the booths. So we're basically taking 3 booths, going out, shooting 3 booths, and coming back, putting up 1 right then, and then going out and shooting more, and coming back and putting up more, and that kind of thing. But the reason that it looks easy, perhaps, one of the reasons is because we've done it for so long.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how many I've been to at this point. I've lost count. But it's really more about all of the planning that goes ahead of time, all of the planning and all of the effort that goes into it ahead of time. And that's one of the things that Charlie really brings to the table, is that I'm really more, as I said, of a let it go kind of guy, and so. For me, I would just show up and, shoot some pictures and video, and, I'd get some stuff up, and that would be the end of it. But for him, he's very, very specific about what he's looking for and what he wants, and he knows what has to be done in order to get that. And so he's planning a lot of the stuff, him and Patrick too, planning a lot of the stuff ahead of time, where we know exactly what's going to happen and who's covering what and where we're going. And, I mean, maps, we have maps of all the booths we're covering, and it's very there's very little left to chance, really. And so that's really the only way that you can do that and be successful at it, as far as I'm concerned at this point.
Absolutely. Nicole, you had the
let's hop in because we are getting to the end of this podcast, but I did want to hit this question from Kurt Williams, who asks, any tips for refining your taste or being able to pick up on more flavors in cigars?
Interesting question.
Yeah, I do have some tips, actually, amazingly enough. Number 1 is retrohaling. If you're not doing that, and you'd be surprised how many people don't do that. And it's not necessary, I mean, for enjoyment of cigars, obviously, and it's not necessary to review cigars either. But for us at least, and for me, personally, retrohaling is a major part of what I do. Basically, you're blowing smoke through your nose when you're tasting flavors. A lot of those flavors come from the retrohale because you've got a lot more, you know, ways to. Wow, just blanked. Sorry. The things in your nose. I forget what they're called. I apologize. But anyway, they pick up a lot more flavors in your mouth. Your mouth can only take so many flavors. And so if you're retrohaling, you're picking up a lot more flavors in the cigar than just the basic flavors that your mouth tastes, earth and leather and whatever it is, that just a very basic palate. So the retrohales, to me, is absolutely imperative to taste the flavors that are in a cigar. But along with that comes the idea that you're not going to taste flavors in a cigar. And I want to be clear, there's no, the cigars we're reviewing, for the most part, every once in a while we'll review a flavored cigar, but for the most part they're all unflavored and they're all just tobacco, right? They don't have any flavoring in them in terms of artificial flavoring. But the flavors that we're tasting in cigars are coming from, in my opinion, and again, I'm sure that people have different opinions, but for me anyway, the flavors that are coming from cigars are coming from a place where your mind is trying to place specific flavors that are coming in. And so the only way that you can place those flavors is to actually have tasted these things before. And so my advice would be to taste as many different things as you possibly can. Different types of food, different ways of cooking, things of that nature. And I'll give you an example real quick. Years ago, I had done a review of a, I want to say, a Opus product, Fuente product, and I just thought it was phenomenal. It was a long time ago, so I forget which one, but it was one of the anniversary ones that they do. And as I'm smoking this, I'm a military brat, so I moved around a lot when I was a kid, and I moved overseas, and I lived in 3 different places overseas. And moved like 12 times before I was 18, just all over the place. Mm-hmm. And so as I'm smoking this cigar, I get a very specific flavor of honeysuckle. And it was there, and it was very, very strong, and it lasted about 5 puffs, maybe, as I recall, maybe 10, and then it disappeared. Now, honeysuckle, I don't know if you know what that is or if you've tasted it before, but honeysuckle is basically a plant, and you basically take the inside of the flower, and you put it in your mouth, and you suck on it, and it tastes kind of like honey. It's not honey. It's just kind of that flavor, right? Kind of a grassy, because of the stem of the flower. It's grassy, sweet, honey-ish kind of flavor. And when I was in Panama, we lived in Panama for 3 years. When I was in Panama, there was a field. I was about 10, probably, give or take. And there was a field outside of our house that was just full of honeysuckle. We just go down there, and we just go down there and get ourselves sick eating it, just putting it in and taking it out, and that kind of thing. And I hadn't thought about that field in decades before then. You forget certain things, you don't think about them, and that flavor brought back that memory very distinctly. That's what I used to do, and that's where where I tasted that flavor specifically. And I explained to him, listen, your mind is trying to place these flavors specifically, and so it's going to pick the closest thing that you have experienced to those flavors. If you haven't tasted honeysuckle, then your mind is going to, because the guy in the comment said, there's no way you tasted honeysuckle in a cigar because there's no honeysuckle in the cigar, and that's true, 100%. But I asked him, have you ever tasted honeysuckle at all? Have you ever done this? He goes, no, I live in New York, and we don't have anything like that. And I say, well, the reason you haven't tasted it, perhaps, is because in the cigar is because you haven't tasted it at all. And so for you, your mind just perhaps, classifies it as sweetness or grass or whatever it is. And if you had tasted it, perhaps it would come across more like that, perhaps not. I don't eat fish. I very, very rarely have I eaten fish or anything that actually comes from the sea, like once in my life. And I think Charlie tricked me into it. But he sometimes tastes fish or some sort of seafood in some of his cigars. I never have. And it's not because that isn't there, and I don't know what Charlie's tasting, obviously, but to me, it's more about the idea that I've never tasted really any fish or anything from the sea, and so for me, my mind would basically just classify it as something else, perhaps something more generic than that. And so for me, I think the important part, getting back to after rambling on, the important part is to taste as many things as you can, as many different flavors, as many different, from different regions and from different countries, because eventually you're going to run across something where, holy crap, that's saffron. And I would never in my life have thought that you'd have saffron in a cigar, assuming you're retrohaling. But here it is. It's there and it's gone. And so my job as a reviewer, that's what I'm doing. I'm basically writing down what my mind is giving me. Hey, that's a flavor of saffron or whatever it is, honey, whatever it is, and writing that down. And a lot of times they're tied to specific memories, at least for me. Sometimes they're not, but for the most part they are. And so that's basically what I'm writing down when I'm doing reviews. And that's how you come up with all of these flavors that are in cigars. I'm basically just writing down what I'm tasting. It essentially is what it is, as simple as it may sound. And but if you don't taste anything, if you're eating nothing but bread and water or whatever it is, then you're probably not going to taste anything except bread and water, because your mind can't classify whatever flavor is coming in. And so the more that you eat, the more that you drink, the more the tastes, you're not tasting leather. Leather tack, for example, is something that I taste a lot in cigars. And people are like, I've had it before. What's the difference between leather and leather tack? There's no difference. It's stupid. And perhaps to some people it is, but there's a very distinct difference between leather, which is something like you smell on a, in a car seat or on a couch or something of that nature. You know what leather smells like. And leather tack, which is essentially, to me, I grew up when we went back, because we were overseas all the time. When I was young, we went back to my family's farm in North Carolina, and they had horses and cows and that kind of thing, in a very small town in North Carolina. And so I would spend summers on the farm, and leather tack is a very specific note. It's basically sweat and leather is basically what it is, and it's very different from leather. And so I can classify that. That's what I'm tasting is leather tack. Whereas people who've never been to a farm, barnyard or manure, why does that smell like manure? Well, the manure is a very specific odor. It's not crap. That's nothing to do with it. It's a very specific combination of odors. When you think about it, and when you actually smell it, you know exactly what you're smelling. And so if you don't smell those things, if you don't have the experience smelling or tasting those things, then your mind has nowhere to put it. And so my advice is to go out and taste as many things as you can, smell as many things as you can, and I think that it will allow you to actually experience more flavors in the cigars that you're smoking.
You almost like build up your mental catalog of
Correct.
Sensory.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I think that a lot of the people who have said, "Oh, you're not tasting that. There's no way you can taste that." A lot of times when you ask them, because I'm always curious, have you ever smelled leather tack? Have you ever smelled a saddle after it's been ridden for 12 hours? And they're like, no, I live in a city. I've never smelled. Well, your mind, you can't smell that then, because you've never, you can't taste that because you've never smelled it.
Right. And
that's the bottom line, as far as I'm concerned. And other people may have different ideas, and that's fine as well. But for me, I think that your mind is an interesting thing, and I think that a lot of times that's exactly what it's doing, is it's trying to classify these flavors that are coming in.
Absolutely. I think that was a really
eloquent way to put it.
Well, yeah, not only that, but I just
long-winded, I would say. Yes. Sorry.
No.
Well, no, I think it's great advice, and I think that it was definitely explained very well. I totally understand what you mean, and I would say I can kind of agree with what you're saying. I can see, how, a lot of it has to do with the connection to something else. Like you were saying, like you have the memories of those certain things that what they smell and they taste like. Other people might not have that, so obviously that's going to come to your forefront versus someone who doesn't. They're not going to pick up on it. It makes sense, when you think about it. And I think that's great advice. Try to just see and taste everything that you can. I remember talking to David Garofalo about it one time, and he was telling me like, yeah, he's like, I found out recently that I'm a super taster. Like I can taste more things than the average person. I forget, he was reading a book on it or something like that. I can't remember. But he was like, yeah, I realized that I'm like a super taster.
I believe he did a seminar with the person.
Yeah, it was
who
something.
wrote the book as
Yeah,
well.
it was
There's
something
a
like.
test, right? There's a test you can take. Something like
Yeah,
that?
I think there is, and I think
That's
he
how I
did
recall.
that, and he was like, apparently I can taste more than the average person or something like that.
There is, but I also can't remember the name of the kit, and I wish
either.
I could.
I know.
But it's a kit that has a lot of common notes that you'll find in cigars, and they give it to you in a jar as well, and you can kind of sniff through and learn to build your palate, I guess, that way.
Yeah.
So you know what you're looking for, similar to what you said. And I wish I could remember, but there was a gentleman who wrote a book. They had them on the Cigar Authority. I believe they were selling his book in the shop for a while as well, but he had come
That's what it
down
was,
and
yes.
done a seminar as well with that team.
Yeah.
But it is very interesting. I studied psychology myself, and now I'm thinking, well, let's dive deeper. What if it was a negative memory attached to that?
That's true too.
That's
I
not
don't
what
have any I
would-
don't have any negative memories. Come on.
Well, no, but like, do you then dislike that cigar if that's what you're, if those
It's
notes
an-
are
it's-
coming
it's
up?
an interesting
That's
point.
That's a really good question. I don't know, honestly. I've never had a situation that I remember specifically saying, oh man, I hate that memory, and therefore I hate the cigar. So I can't speak to that. But it's a very interesting question. I'll keep it in mind when I'm smoking.
It's just another layer, right? I'm like, then
Yeah,
at the same
no,
time, I'm like, shut up and enjoy the cigar.
It's
Well, and that's the problem with
I know.
reviewers is that, especially if you're actually doing it for a living, right? Is that or you have a blog or whatever it is that you're doing, is that you can't really in my mind it's a very different situation reviewing and enjoying a cigar. At this point, I don't believe there's any time that I can sit down and enjoy a cigar the same way that I did before. It's not possible for me to let go and not think to myself, hey, that's a good flavor. I should, remember that, or whatever it is. And it's sad in a way, but that is part of the aspect of what we do. So it's just a matter of not being able to enjoy it the same way as I did when I was just a consumer.
Yeah. I mean, that's, for me, that's another part of it too, is just, I always had this fear too that if I'd gone into reviewing like all the time and trying to review as many cigars as I could, it would take away from that whole experience.
It will.
It'll take away from the experience, and it'll wear me down, and I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm that worn down from it. I still needed some motivation to do what I do. So, but no, hats off to you guys, really, for all the stuff that you've done and the reviews and all the stuff you guys go through. Since getting into this industry myself, I have to say, I have a new sense of appreciation for like the stuff that you guys do with all your reviews and all that, because it's not easy. I've talked to people who do it. I've tried it myself. I see what goes into it and all that. So really, just hats off to you guys. It's a lot of work, and it's something that obviously I don't do, but maybe in the future. I always say that maybe in the future things will change, and I'll get more into that. But seriously, you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
You're very
But
welcome.
I want to point out also that you guys are doing a great job as well. And I hate to have a huge circle jerk here, but it kind of said,
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can.
But I mean, it's difficult, especially now. It was difficult when we started, perhaps in different ways. But it's difficult, I can imagine, with all of the different sites out there doing a lot of the same things. It's difficult to, I imagine, have an individual voice and being able to be known for an individual voice. And I think you guys are doing great at that specifically. And when we first met, I noticed that you guys were very, you're very invested in what you were doing, and it's something that you can't fake. It's not something that you can, pretend like you care or something of that nature, and at least not to me. And you guys obviously are very invested in what you're doing, and I think it shows in what you're in the product that you're putting out. And so there are certainly, websites and blogs out there that don't have that, and it shows in their final product. And I think that's something that you guys certainly have in spades. So there's that.
Well, thank you very much,
Yes,
Brooks. That was
thank you.
very, very nice of you to say. As
It's nice too, and that goes a long ways too.
what'd you say?
You guys are nice too, so that goes
Oh.
a long way too.
Well, thank you. You guys were as well. We were really excited to meet you guys all, at PCA and run into everyone. It was quite awesome. Really, you guys were really awesome to talk to and get to know. And we're happy to have you on the show. Thank you again for being here with us tonight.
Yeah, of course.
as-
Happy to help out any way we can.
As we do wind down the show, Nicole, you have our giveaway that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I was just going to remind our audience that we have a giveaway that is starting next Thursday, the 9th. So for the remaining Thursdays in December, we will be giving away cigars every week.
There you go.
So next week, we are actually giving away a bundle of the Camacho Factory Unleashed. We have some other great prizes. To win this, you have to sign up for our mailing list on our website, and then just either reshare our original post or tag a couple friends. And that gets you into that. We will be pulling the winners on the show live every week. And coming up, we actually have Bradley Rubin next week as a guest.
From Alec Bradley, yes.
From Alec Bradley. On the 16th, we have Glenn Loop and Joshua Habersky
From PCA.
from PCA.
Yep.
We have Oliver Nouveau from United after that. And then we will finish up the month with Abe Dababna on the
Smoke
30th.
In. We're going to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
the Great Smoke. Oliver will be on for our Christmas special episodes.
Yep.
Don't miss that. So yeah, don't forget to go check out our social media, go to the website, sign up for the newsletter. You just might have a chance to take away one of these awesome.
We have so many cigars. What
We-
else do we have?
Camacho Factory Unleashed. We have the LFD Especial or Scoro Naturals and the McAuliffe Bold Maduros. I believe those are Toros.
Yep.
And then as well as the last week will be a bundle. I want to say it's
Over 40.
I think it's over
cigars
40
at this point.
of just different cigars from our personal collections that we put together in there. So don't miss that. It'll be definitely awesome to win one of those. So make sure you guys stay on top of that. But Brooks, thank you for being here with us today, tonight. We really appreciate it. A great conversation. I learned some new things as I try to do. And that's kind of the point of the show. It's not just for the viewers to learn new things. Sometimes I learn new things too. So that's always awesome. So again, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us and your presence. We really appreciate it.
No worries. We all have different aspects to our personalities, and we all have different ways of looking at things, and we certainly can learn from just about anybody, in my opinion. It's just a matter of pulling out the information.
Absolutely, yeah. We can always learn from each other. That's the best thing. As Nicole said, Bradley Rubin will be with us next week. No spare notes this week. I believe it'll be next week, so you can catch Coop and I on the spare notes series. I think that's next week. Yeah, because we did one last week. So next week you can see the spare notes series again. Coop's already got a long list of things he wants to talk about. That's all I can tell you right now. My inbox is already full. He's got a lot of gears to grind. So just keep an eye out for that.
I can't wait.
Brooks, stay with us until we're off the air. But guys, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe on all of our channels, wherever podcasts can be found. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.